Let's talk about Booleans in this video. So Booleans are data types that can store only two values, and we have just true and false, and they are meant to store the truth value of conditionals in our programs. Okay, so if you declare a variable of the type bool, you can store only true or false in there. And so let's go ahead and create a boolean. I can say let status. So let's say I'm storing the status of some operation and I want to know whether the operation succeeded. So if it succeeded, then it's going to be true. If it didn't, it's going to be false. Okay, so you can do bool is equal to true to indicate that the status or the operation succeeded. Okay, and for now I'm going to use it in a print. That's a very useless thing to do, but I just want you to be aware that you can also print out booleans. That is the only reason why I'm doing this. Okay, so we can do this, and I can come here and do cargo run, and you can see that it will print out that indeed the value of status is true. We can also store false in it, and then when we print it, we expected to see false out there. Now, like I stated earlier, the use of the Boolean data type is to store the truth value of some logic or some conditionals in our code. And so I'm going to go a step ahead of myself, and I'm going to use an if statement in this code, even though I have not shown you what the if statement does yet or how to use it in Rust. Okay, so I'm going to say if status, then I'm going to print I'll say successful. Okay, otherwise I'm going to print failed. So let me copy this and I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to print failed. Okay, so let's run this program, and you can see that it print failed. The reason is that I stored false in this status, and the if statement is going to evaluate the value of status, and if it is true, it is going to execute this block of code. Otherwise, if it is false, it is going to evaluate this block of code. And because bool is false, that is why it evaluated to this one. If you don't understand the if statement, don't worry, there is a whole section on conditionals in Rust, and you get to learn more about the if statement. Now, one more thing I want to tell you before I end this video is that unlike in other programming languages where numeric values have, in a sense, something that has to do with truth. I mean, for a language like C, you can store, let's say, in an integer the value 1 and use that integer in an if statement, and because it is storing something that is non-zero, the language is going to treat it as truth. That thing doesn't hold in Rust. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to change this to an integer. So I'm going to take away the type annotation, and I'm going to store the value 1 in here. So in other languages, this is a perfectly good code that will compile, but Rust doesn't allow that. So if I hover over it, you can see that there's a mismatched type, and it's saying it is expecting a boolean, but it found an integer. This is what the linter is telling us, and unsurprisingly, the compiler is going to tell us the same thing. So it's expecting a boolean, but it found an integer. So you cannot treat integers as booleans based on whether they store non-zero values or they store zero values. You can only do that with an explicit value for the bool, which is either true or false. And so now if I come and do cargo run, you can see that it's printing successful because now status is true, and so this block executes and this doesn't execute. That is it about booleans. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.